Good Friday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. Well, looking outside, cloudy skies right now. I've got 53 degrees on the barn thermometer. It is dry, but it looks like there's a chance for rain in the southern part of the state earlier today, and then maybe a chance in the overnight hours in the northern half. Other than that, it looks like we've got a dry forecast moving into next week. Well, looking at the calendar, it doesn't feel like it, but we are just days away from the month of June, and that is National Dairy Month. The American Dairy Association Mideast encourages you to celebrate the month of June as National Dairy Month. Visit their website at drink-milk.com to learn more. Also, tune in on Tuesday during midday as Dale will be getting an update from the folks at the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Well, let's check in with Dale Minyo now as he has an update from this week's Feeding Farmers in the Field.
Week number 4 winner of Feeding Farmers in the Field. We're at Geyer Farms. Joining me is Terry. And Terry, congratulations on winning. Everybody normally wants to know, we're getting to Western Ohio. How are the crops getting in the ground? And yours is a little different scenario. Tell us first, what do you have to do to get in the ground yet?
We got to make all our rye, which we got that done. Our triticale's done. We're working on our wheat right now. We've been extremely wet. We got our alfalfa to do yet, and then we'll start planting corn probably middle of next week, hopefully.
For some of you, that may sound unusual, but we are on a large dairy farm in southern Mercer County, and forage for the rest of the year is very important. So we're glad to hear you're getting it done. Mother Nature's not any more patient to put up hay than they are getting crops in the ground, are they?
No, not at all. We'll get it done. We always do. You're going to chop over corn anyways. It's later. It normally does just as well for chopping anyways. The cows like it no matter what.
I found it interesting. A dairy farm is basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the entire year. But you and your family still run a bale wrapping business because not everybody knows how to bale wrap or has the need for it all the time. So that's got to keep you pretty busy off the farm as well.
Yeah, me and Jordan got 3 bale wrappers and an ag bagger, and we run them as well all summer long. So keeps us pretty busy.
And they have a large supply already built up left from last year, and that makes it nice to be able to preserve it. Again, Terry Geyer, Geyer Farms, Mercer County, week number 4 winner of Feeding Farmers in the Field.
Thanks, Dale. Well, let's get a look at that Friday and into the weekend weather forecast. The forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com.
Some moisture trying to work through Ohio today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at the Ohio Ag Weather Update. We've got the remains of a weather system that originated in the Central Plains a couple of days ago, moving through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys today. I-70 southward, we're going to be dealing with on-again, off-again rain showers and maybe a few thunderstorms. I'm going to say right now, 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch of precipitation with nearly 100% coverage from I-70 southward. You get north of that today, we see clouds, but I don't think a lot of precipitation. Now, we are also watching an area of low pressure slide southward out of the Hudson Bay area today. We'll try and move through Michigan later this afternoon and evening, getting into northern Ohio overnight tonight. I think with this low, we're going to be seeing plenty of clouds in the north, but also a few additional scattered showers, and these scattered showers can make it down into southern Ohio as well, probably seeing an additional few hundreds to maybe 2-3 tenths or so. Everything should be done by mid-morning tomorrow. The rest of tomorrow turns out partly to mostly sunny, and we are dry then for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. The weekend is cool, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, temperatures climb dramatically. Overnight Wednesday night into Thursday, we've got a frontal boundary coming through. 2 waves with that brings us anywhere from 1/2 to 1.5 inches of rain with coverage at 100% of the Buckeye State. Behind it, we're dry for Friday the 6th and the weekend of the 7th and 8th. Starting the week of the 9th, we have another front that wants to show up, likely bringing us rain Monday night into Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Taking a look at your agricultural headlines. Agricultural groups are asking Congress to reaffirm federal authority over pesticide labeling requirements by passing the Agricultural Labeling Uniformity Act. Now, in a letter sent back on Wednesday to House and Senate leaders, 365 groups laid out their growing concerns that, quote, some states have begun to regulate pesticides in a manner contradicting decades of scientific guidance from the Environmental Protection Agency, the group stated. The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, otherwise known as FIFRA, establishes EPA as the authority to make decisions on how pesticides should be labeled and used. As the letter noted, states are permitted to regulate the sale and use under FIFRA, but are preempted from creating additional labeling requirements or requiring different labeling and packages. Now, nevertheless, in recent years, we have seen action from states that directly and unjustifiably contradicts EPA's scientific findings on pesticide safety, Those moves by states risk creating an inconsistent patchwork of state pesticide labels that can complicate sales and access to crop protection tools. The labeling demands from states also risk jeopardizing public confidence in the EPA's authority and science-based regulations, the groups said. The letter added that growers and users need reaffirmation from Congress that while states have authority to regulate the sale and use of pesticides within their jurisdiction, they cannot impose labeling or packaging requirements in addition to or different from the scientific conclusions of the EPA. Now, 11 attorneys general from Republican-led states, including Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and South Carolina, all petitioned the EPA in January to amend FIFRA to prevent states from requiring labels inconsistent with the EPA's findings, such as pesticides' likelihood to cause cancer, birth defects, or reproductive harm. The attorneys general said such labels by states should be considered misbranded by the product. Now, a lot of complaints go back to California and the decision in 2017 to require warning labels for pesticides such as glyphosate. California listed glyphosate as a known carcinogen, but faced immediate legal challenges. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2023 blocked California from enforcing the warning label. Agricultural groups filed an amicus brief earlier this month asking the Supreme Court to hear a petition from Bayer Monsanto in one of its cases tied to more than 1,000 plaintiffs across the country suing Bayer for not warning people that glyphosate causes cancer. Bayer is appealing a ruling against it by the state court in Missouri. The case Monsanto versus Durnell was filed with the Supreme Court back in April. Beyond agricultural groups, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and others have also weighed in so far, arguing that upholding such state-level claims would preempt federal authority. Let's check in now with Joe Everett as he had a chance to visit with Manbir Rikar, OSU soil scientist, about the challenges farmers face as they try and decide between going into ground that's a little too wet or the yield penalty for waiting too long to get their crop in the ground.
It reduces yield when we go out and compact the fields and do the damage of getting on it wet. But we're also losing quite a bit of yield by getting it out later and later, which also has impact on yield. Where do you think we lie when we try to bridge that gap? Like, when do you think it's too wet or we're getting too late?
Yeah, I think farmers are just in a tough situation. They're at this moment, there will be trade-offs. As you said, either I get a yield penalty because of delaying planting, or I get a yield penalty because I planted in wet condition and caused all kind of soil structure damage. And there is no question, at this moment, we are almost in the window of delayed planting. There will be some yield penalties. Maybe there is room to overcome that yield penalties by either utilizing a shorter relative maturity corn variety or increasing the seeding rate. Those kind of strategies can be applied to overcome that yield penalty. However, on the flip side, if you go out and just plant your crop in the wet conditions, especially during wet conditions, the sidewall compaction is a big issue. Once that is done, there's just no going back. It's done. It's not curable. You're going to have uneven emergence. There will be root restriction for the plants. There will be all kind of issues with the water absorption and nutrient absorption, which going to hit the yields. So if I would be in that situation, and honestly, I might be a little biased over here being a soils person, but I think the yield penalty that we're going to experience from delayed planting is not usually as huge as you would get from planting in the wet conditions. If I would have to choose one over the other, maybe I would just give a couple of more days to dry that soil and then maybe adjust some of my planting plan of corn and soybean to overcome the delayed planting situation. So there will be trade-offs, but let's go with what is less detrimental to the yields and our pockets.
To hear the full interview, check out the featured audio at ohioagnet.com. In other agricultural headlines, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced the release of congressionally mandated emergency livestock relief program payments to cover grazing losses due to eligible drought or wildfire events in 2023 and or 2024. Secretary Rollins committed back on May 7th to release these emergency payments by May 30th, and she delivered on that commitment ahead of schedule. U.S. Department of Agriculture's Farm Service Agency is leveraging existing livestock forage disaster program data to streamline payment calculations and expedite the relief. The emergency relief payments are automatically issued for producers who have an approved LFP application on file for 2023 and/or 24 and do not have to contact the USDA to receive those payments. The Department of Agriculture is stepping up to support livestock producers by expediting disaster payments when drought and wildfires strike. Under President Trump's leadership, the USDA has the backs of ranchers, and that's why we're delivering the much-needed emergency relief ahead of schedule, Secretary Rollins said. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
Soybeans are making waves in aquaculture. As a top protein source for fish farming, soy meal is essential for producing sustainable farm-raised fish. With fish farming as the fastest growing food sector, soybeans meet the demand for eco-friendly, nutritious options. From soybean fields to fish farms, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by the Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Let's take a look at what's impacting our markets. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Phone 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets uninspiring for Thursday. We're going to try and finish out this holiday-shortened trading week here today with some kind of a bounce. Corn and soybeans yesterday were lower all day long. We fluctuated from a few pennies down on beans to about 8 to 10 or 11 cents at times. The market just did not get too excited either direction on some of the headlines that were out there. Corn was weaker as well. Chicago wheat was down. Hard wheats in Kansas City and in Minneapolis were higher for a large chunk of the day, but didn't put together a huge run to the upside. As we look at the headlines, probably the biggest talking point yesterday in markets in general, not just commodity markets, but overall, was that Trump intervention or the court intervention into the Trump tariffs. That was all the rage as we went into the early part of the trading session on Thursday, but once we got into the afternoon and evening, we heard that an appeals court has reinstated the ability of the Trump administration to put these reciprocal tariffs on. So clearly this story is not done yet. We're going to continue to flop back and forth, but clearly also the market was viewing any kind of headline like this as a proceed with caution. And we really did see that through most of the trading session. The equities bounced and moved all over the place, but we did not see other markets follow suit. What we are going to be looking at here as we move forward through today, probably a look at the weekend weather. We're going to try and dry down some here, not necessarily today itself in Ohio, but tomorrow through the weekend and through midweek next week. Our frontal boundary coming next Wednesday afternoon into Thursday. This is going to be followed by more dry days, probably 3 to 4 dry back-to-back. So those are going to offer some opportunity for field work, good evaporation, good dry down, but we're also hearing increased talk of some prevent plant in the southern parts of Ohio, southern Indiana, and Kentucky in this Ohio River corridor. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look now at how the markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Well, July corn closed down 4 cents and December corn was down 2 1/4. July soybeans closed up 3 1/4 cents, while November soybeans were down 1/4 penny. And July Kansas City wheat closed up 6 1/2 cents. July Chicago wheat was up 3 3/4 penny, and July Minneapolis wheat was up 12 1/4 cents. Now in the other markets, the U.S. dollar index closed lower. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 21 points at 42,191. June gold closed up. June silver was up. July copper was down. July crude oil was lower. July ultra low sulfur diesel closed down. July gasoline was down, and natural gas also closed lower. Well, now let's take a look at your overnight trade in the grain markets. This brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. July corn is trading up a penny at $4.48. December new crop corn up 3/4 penny at $4.42. July soybeans are trading down 5 3/4 cents at $10.46, while November new crop beans are down 4 3/4 at $10.32 1/2. And wheat for July, the new crop is trading up 2 cents at $5.36. September wheat also up 2 cents at $5.50 3/4 cents. Taking a look at how livestock closed yesterday, June live cattle closed the day up $1.60 at $215.52.5. August cattle were up $1.90 at $210.07.5. Now June lean hogs closed the day down 25 cents at $100.02.5, and July hogs were down 32.5 cents at $102.97.5. This is the Ohio AgNet.